there's no room for anything that doesn't contribute to being your best. Save that comfort for when you're old. Do you still believe this?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I know exactly the post. I remember writing it and I was in a very different state of mind and a different part of life. I would say there is room for things that don't make you your best self in terms of if we're relating it back to bodybuilding like that was, but there's also room for fun as well. I've learned.
Do you think that where you are in your life right now, you have the right balance between fun and what you would say work that contributes to being your best self?
Compared to back then, yes. There's probably room for better balance, but compared to back at that time, much, much further improved.
Why is that? What is it different now?
So if I compare back to this post, it would have been like, what, 2022? We're living in Melbourne, I'm pretty sure. I can remember it. And I was just pure blinders on, tunnel vision, more suffering equals more progress. And although I was making good progress, I wasn't very present. I wasn't very, I guess, happy, but I was making progress. Now, I think I've found a perfect balance where I'm more present. I'm more enjoying what I'm doing. And I've come to realize that more suffering does not equal more progress. More enjoyment paired with good and hard work leads to more progress.
Yeah, it's funny how we have this concept that the more we suffer, the more we're going to get out of what we're pursuing. And I guess maybe that's because we have these people like the Hormozis and there's people on Instagram that are posting, sleep when you're dead, work, work, work. And we see the success that they have. And maybe that's what makes us think that that's the case. But I've definitely found in my own life that the more I have balance, the more I'm able to give 100% to what I'm doing because I can really take time to switch off. And then when I do need to switch on, I feel like I'm so much more energized and so much more ready to go.
Yeah. I find the more I enjoy what I'm doing, the more present I am, the better I do at it anyway. And then it allows me to be more, relaxed, yet progressive at the same time.
Do you think that you would still have that same idea if things were going different? So say you're in a different part of your bodybuilding career, would you have still come to this same realization? Or do you think that if in your first pro season, you won all your shows and you were going into Olympia, do you think that you'd still be at the same realization now?
Maybe not. Maybe not. I think I was almost a bit delusional in my pro debut thinking I was going to win and go to the Olympia straight away when I clearly wasn't quite yet developed enough. So maybe if I won them, I probably wouldn't have had the harsh learning the curve that I took. So probably not. So that's just why winning every single show is not the best for you, I think.
What did you learn most about yourself in that period of that pro debut? I know you went into it with really high hopes. You were wanting to win. A lot of people thought you were going to win. And obviously your result was amazing for a pro debut, but it wasn't what you expected. What did you learn? What was your key takeaways from that prep and that experience?
The first thing, like we said before, I was very tunnel vision, very not present, very just robotic and switched off. So I think I learned through that prep that being in that mindset, although sometimes you think that's going to relate to better progress, it doesn't really. But also taught me to be, I guess, a bit more analytical and more aware of myself rather than just being like, just convincing myself, I'm going to be the best, I'm going to win. I think since I've been able to learn how to more honestly take a step back and look at where I'm at and then make, I guess, goals more realistically compared to back there.
Yeah, it's a funny thing to think about. I actually had a question from one of my clients a while ago, and she was asking about setting realistic goals compared to, dreaming big. And actually, we had a discussion about this, and I kind of battle with this myself of like, yes, you want to dream big and you want to set these goals that scare you. We talk about, shoot for the stars, and if you don't hit the stars, you're still going to land on the moon. But we also do have to be realistic with our goals, because if you're not realistic, you might be delusional about what it actually takes. And one, you might slack off. But two, if that goal doesn't get hit straight away, it's going to make you feel not so good about yourself. And you might just lose motivation as well.
I think through that I've learned, set big goals, nothing is unrealistic, but the time frame can be unrealistic. So I sort of thought I'd be Mr. Olympia, qualifying for the Olympia, winning my first pro show in the first season. That time frame wasn't realistic, but I do believe that I can achieve the same thing, but with a more realistic time spent progressing.
Absolutely. And even just like having a realistic or a really big goal, but then a realistic system to get to that goal, knowing that it is going to take you a lot longer. And majority of the time, it does take us longer than we think. We see these freaks of nature that are 21 years old that have qualified for Olympia and have like crazy muscle maturity. But for the most part, it takes a long time to build your mindset, build the muscle. In bodybuilding or anything, it usually takes a lot longer than we think. Do you think that that prep made you, because what happened with the second prep? Did you learn in that first prep that setting those realistic goals needed to be, you needed to set those realistic goals, or do you think that that happened in that second prep? Because I know you kind of went into the next prep with not as long time in between. What do you think?
I think I didn't fully grasp that idea of being more realistic time frame until the prep following. The first one is where I think brought myself out of the mindset of being more suffer, suffer, suffer. The next prep, I was a little bit more present, but still not really honest and clear on what I could achieve in that time frame. But after that show, being the one I did last year, then I was sort of forced to step back, reevaluate, and that's where all the lessons I learned from pretty much all the preps, I think, sort of hit me. And that was the period where I was living in Dubai on my own. I had a lot of time to think and just reevaluate what I was doing. And I think everything I'd learned from prior preps and everything I'd learned from the whole experience of everything all just hit me at once. There's one sort of period where I was just doing a lot of self-work on my own, and it hit me then. And that's when I realized there's a way to do things within balance and realistic expectations.
Yeah, yeah. Setting realistic expectations, but also dreaming big, believing in yourself enough to have those big goals and create the plan that's going to get you there. That's super important. What were you doing in Dubai to self-reflect? You obviously spent a lot of time alone, but how were you directing that self-reflection?
I think when you're on your own, you're just forced to think about everything more deeply. And I've got the habit, or at least I used to have the habit up until last year, that I would go about everyday scenarios, not being present and not evaluating what I'm doing and not giving things thought. Just be like, all right, here's the plan. I'm going to train, I'm going to eat, I'm going to do this. And I was very, very robotic. And that got me to a certain point, but you can only get so far. So I think just being forced to be on my own, and being alone with my own thoughts more, it made me step back and just really evaluate. And I came to a point, where everything just sort of made sense, both with bodybuilding and with progress, but also spiritually and mentally and physically, and everything just sort of almost hit me at a certain point.
Do you think that you could have done that not being alone? Or do you think that people need to have that period, that lonely chapter to learn those lessons?
I think I needed to be alone. We've spoken about it before. It's like the example I say is, like, you always tell me how much you love traveling. I'd never traveled overseas until a couple of years ago. And I was like, yeah, traveling's okay, but whatever. After hearing your sort of explanations of it. But I only realized how cool travel was once I experienced it. I think that's like I need to do. I needed to experience and sort of come to my own realizations of what I was doing and where I was at, rather than being told what needs to be fixed. Because you can be told what to do all the time, but you can't really learn until you experience everything.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes these high highs and these low lows to make us come to these realizations. And I think that you went through that period of that low and then taking yourself away to be alone really just manifested all of this self-growth, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
You've always been a very, to me, you've always been a very self-confident person, a self-assured person. We see this with the setting unrealistic goals potentially. Was there ever a time in your life where you experienced self-doubt and you weren't as confident as you are now?
I was very, very not self-confident always up until pretty much I found bodybuilding. Played like a lot of sport when I was younger, played AFL. And I was like, I guess, naturally pretty athletic and good at it. But my main thing was not believing in myself. And I sort of felt similarly to everything I did. I was not confident as a kid. I was like a quiet sort of kid. And I didn't have the self-belief. I can remember vividly after pretty much every footy game I had, my dad would be like, you just need to back yourself, go in and get it. Because I'd stand back and not believe that I was good enough to really, do a big play or go in hard for the ball sometimes. And that was the case with everything up until I found the gym. And then the way I found bodybuilding, it's like a physical representation of how just getting in and doing the work brings things to life, and that you can achieve whatever you want to do if you do the physical things. Because like bodybuilding is like your body is your physical representation of what can be built through your own work. And then after I discovered that, I went all in on bodybuilding, and my self-confidence skyrocketed, because that's what taught me that you can do anything if you just get to work. Your actions like dictate your success. And that's, I think, what almost led to maybe pushing a little bit too far, because my self-confidence in what I could achieve was like almost unrealistic. And then I started being just almost too direct until I've learned recently. So, yeah.
What do you think it was back when you were a child? Why did you have the self-doubt?
Why? I think, I'm not sure. Maybe because I never overcome anything, anything like big. I had no I don't know, like big setbacks or really sad times or like deaths in the family or those sort of things that set people back. And because I didn't have to overcome a lot of things, and I guess, life was pretty easy. I never had to push through hard things to realize that pushing through hard things is what provides success.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best ways to be confident is to do things that you say you're going to do. That's obviously, we see that with bodybuilding and anything in life. If you want to become a more confident person, set plans, set goals, stick to them. Your confidence will flourish. The more confidence you can have in yourself, the more you do those things, but the more you do those things, the more confident you are in yourself. And that's perfect reflection of bodybuilding, is that you say you want to build muscle, so you go to the gym and you build muscle. And so you are literally fulfilling your goals. And so of course you're going to feel confident. But you are so right. There's, of course, adversity and going through hard times, and knowing that you can get through hard times is going to give you that confidence as well, especially when a hard time comes up. What do you think was the hardest moment in your life up until that point?
Not much, which is probably why I've been lucky that I've never had any, like big events that have really massively affected me.
Did you lose as a kid?
Lose.
Sport?
Yeah.
How did you handle losses?
It's different because I did a lot of team sport and I was very selfish. To me, a loss was I played bad, not the team lost. If the team lost, but I got best on field, that was a win. If we won, I didn't play well, that was a loss. So that's probably why I do an individual sports. But I think I handled loss in a way that I was very hard on myself, and I'd sort of beat myself up mentally about not performing at my best. And that's probably something I still do now if I'm not happy with what I'm doing. But I never really let it stop me, I don't think. I just forced a change of direction.
So do you think bodybuilding gave you a positive self-image and it made you more confident in your actions?
Yeah. And nothing to do with the physical. It's very easy to be like, oh, I'm a big muscular person. I'm self-confident. So nothing to do with the way I look or feel about my body. It's purely just the fact of seeing what happens when you just do something and go all in on something. Like that's what makes my confidence skyrocket. And that bleeds into everything. I think like the last couple of years, that sort of mindset's bled into like business and marketing and branding and everything else I do. But yeah, the self-confidence just purely comes from doing things with intention, effort, energy, and seeing that that's all it takes to bring about your dreams.
Yeah. I think that a successful anything, a successful comp prep, it's never about the placings. And just like you were saying with the team sport, wasn't to you, it wasn't about whether or not your team actually won or lost, but it was about whether or not you performed. And to me, something I always say is a successful prep is not whether or not you win or lose. A successful prep is whether or not you gave 100%, you stuck to the rules that you made for yourself, you did everything to the best of your ability. That's when you can feel good about yourself, that's when you can feel confident, and that's when you can deem that successful. If you win but you didn't keep the promises you made to yourself, you're probably not going to feel that success. You're probably not even going to feel like that was a win. If you came fifth place, but you did everything in your power, of course it's going to hurt, but you're still going to feel really good about yourself. You're going to feel confident in your abilities. When you did those first two preps where the losses hit pretty hard, did they still feel like successful preps, or do you think that you became, I actually think you did become too outcome focused, that they didn't become they weren't successful, even though you probably did every single thing in your power. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, if I look back on it now, they were successful preps because I came in knowing that I did everything I was intending to do, everything that was planned out. Like I did the work. But at the time, because I set those unrealistic expectations, I didn't see it as a success at all. And I was just beating myself up. Now I can look back on it and be like, oh, you actually did do well. The only thing you could have improved on was being more present and more process focused rather than outcome focused.
Yeah. When you focus on the outcome, it becomes really hard for anything to feel good. You're never in control of the outcome. You could have bought a winning worthy physique and you could have given everything your all, but somebody just looked better than you. And if all you cared about was that win, you're not going to feel good about yourself. And that's where the self-confidence drops, because you think, I'm a failure. When in reality, you've kept every promise that you made to yourself. You've worked your ass off. You've done better than majority of people in that field. But yeah, you sort of deem that as a fail if it's not that number one.
Just the win is the process, enjoying the process. It's a combo. Like you have to enjoy what you're doing, but you also don't want to take it easy. It's a matter of doing the hard work, but like dwelling in the hard work and enjoying it rather than just being like, this is the end goal. That's all that matters. Get lost.
Yeah, because of course, at the end of the day, we want to win. We want to be the best at what we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about this. That's what we do, is chase more and chase the success. But you also have to have that internal feeling of, I'm enough, to be able to sustain that success. I think that's one of the things that makes those people that do win over and over and over again, they do have that journey focused mindset. And they're usually, I would say they're probably pretty proud of themselves on the inside, and they believe that they're worthy of that win.
Yeah, I think since realizing all this, my goal ever since like that Dubai period, like nearly a year ago now, has been trying to find the enjoyment for the process similar to when I was like maybe before I did my first comp, pairing the enjoyment for the process and the fun of it with the adherence to a hardworking plan. I think this is the first time this last 8 months or so that I've finally found that balance where I'm having fun with it again. I'm enjoying it, but I'm, I guess, extremely sort of regimented and diligent with what I'm doing. And it's funny because now that I'm in this point where I've sort of found that balance, I don't even really care so much about the outcome of the next show. I do, I want to win, but I'm doing it because it's just fun. And what I'm doing now is enjoyable.
Yeah, that's awesome. You are, everybody knows you to be one of the most disciplined, regimented people anyone knows. How important is it to you that you continue being that regimented person?
Well, it's important to be regimented for progress. So yes, it's important. But at the same time, I want to have that regiment with a more present sort of being, which I've definitely think I've found. If I went through that sort of more robotic sort of time frame, if anything, it was probably a blessing in disguise because it's almost instilled the habits of being really diligent that I don't even have to think about it. Like it's not an option. It's just you go and you do the work, you be on top of everything, and that's just like, I guess, natural setting. And then without having to focus on that mentally, my mind can be on, I guess, again, the enjoyment of the process. So it's like just a blend, and it takes time, ups and downs to find your blend. So I think I've found it, which is good.
I listened to a podcast yesterday with Jocko Willink, and he was talking about the similarities between being a good BJJ jiu-jitsu athlete and being good in the military. And he was talking about that you have to have this perfect blend of discipline and creativity. To be high level in BJJ, in the military, in high level in business, you need to be disciplined because you need to work, you need to train, you need to be disciplined with your recovery. But if you're too disciplined, you're going to miss the creativity and the innovation that's so, so important. Especially he was talking about with BJJ, you know, if you're so disciplined, you don't have the creativity to see what move is coming and see what move you need to do. You're just going to roll with the moves that you've practiced. I can really see that the same with bodybuilding as well. If you have that discipline and nothing else, you are more likely just going to run yourself into the ground and probably perform worse because you're so stressed about being disciplined and perfectionism. Do you think that perfectionism has played a big role in your journey as a whole?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, and you said it. And it's still something I probably deal with more than necessary now. It's like if it's not perfect, it's not right. Or if something doesn't go the way you plan, it's not right. And I'm definitely getting better at that now, accepting that not everything goes your way. But perfectionism is something that I think put an excessive amount of pressure on myself to achieve.
Perfectionism is really just procrastination, I think, because we're never going to be perfect. Life is never going to be perfect. Life is a wild ride that you can't predict and you can't control external things. And if you've got unrealistic expectations about how a prep is going to go or how your life is going to go, you're never going to be satisfied because it is never going to be perfect. Being able to adapt and overcome that and have that creativity is so important.
Yeah. I was told recently from my friend Dean, Dean, he's a legend, that perfectionism is just like your body and your mind's way of trying to take control of things you don't always have control over. And if you try and just grasp everything, be like, this needs to be perfect, I need to control this outcome, all that it leads to is stress. Whereas if you just learn to go with the flow, do what you can only do, and let God do what he can only do, or whatever you want to believe in, whatever sort of plan is in place for you, just let that be, go with the flow, and then do your part, and then just let everything else just release it. And that's just the best way to overcome it, which I'm learning in the process of, I think.
I think we're all learning. It's a never-ending journey. It's really, and especially in the sport of bodybuilding, if you are so trapped in your discipline and in your perfectionism, in a physique sport where every tiny detail does matter, but if you lose an hour of sleep because you're stressing about the fact that you missed one grain of rice in your meal, you're probably going to have a worse outcome the next day. You're going to wake up maybe inflamed, watery. You might not train as well the next day because you've lost that hour of sleep because you were stressing about the one thing that didn't go perfect. But if you just had accepted it and let that go, you probably would have got a good sleep. You probably would have woken up feeling really good, looking really good. So it's to our demise that we are so picky with everything that we do.
Yeah.
But you have to be with bodybuilding, especially because if you're too far on one end of the spectrum, you're not going to be.
To an extent, it's like be controlled over the variables to this level. As a sweet spot, anything past is unnecessary stress. Anything below, you're being slack. Pull it to the sweet spot. And I've been too far above. Now I'm getting into that sweet spot, I think.
Yeah. It's just finding that perfect harmony between discipline and creativity and play and being present and enjoying both for what they are and giving both 100% so that the other can also have 100% as well. It's like yesterday you were going into your next work block and your mind was uptight. I could tell you were just wanting to get your work done. You didn't want to think about anything else. And I stopped us and I said, okay, we're going to go jump in the pool. We're going to go for a quick swim. And immediately you said no. And then we went for a swim and you felt really good after.
Yep. And I got back and said, remind me of this exact example.
Yeah.
Every time that I feel uptight.
Yeah.
Because I was just, I have my set work hours. Relates back to bodybuilding again. Set work hours. All right, this, work, no emotion, no nothing, boom. And then pulling me out of it, I was resistant. But then I was like, oh, okay, I'll swim. And then I came back and I was so much more present. The work I did was more focused. My mindset was just much fresher. And it's a quick little reset. Stepping out of the comfort zone, stepping out of the robotic mode for fun is always the best.
How important is it that you stick to the things that you say you're going to do?
Massively. Have you ever seen the meme? It's like, I think it's a meme of Chris Bumstead and he's like about to do a bench press. He's like, if you don't make a PB here, you're dumb and you're stupid. That's how I think about anything. If I don't adhere or, did you see that? That's how my mind works. I like, if I don't do what I've intended, if I don't do the work, you're dumb, I hate you, I can't live with it. And that doesn't sound very good, but like if I've got something that I'm intending to do, I don't know, it's pretty rare that I don't do it because I think I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't do it. Even small, probably unimportant things, but I think very important to have a strict plan of what you want to do and make sure you stick to it because if you don't, you're just proving to yourself that you're not cut out to succeed.
Where do you think that do or die mindset comes from? Do you think that that's something that's been developed through your bodybuilding career, or does that come from that child who doesn't believe in himself and isn't confident and doesn't believe that he's worth the success?
I think it comes from the comparison of being not confident and not having much belief in myself to then finding that belief. And then it's like just comparing myself as, all right, I can achieve all these things, but only if I work for it. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to go back to these old ways or these old ways of not feeling enough. So I'm going to stick to everything and do it all. Okay.
Yeah. I agree. I think so. What does Kaizen mean to you?
Kaizen, this bad boy. I think it's Chinese. I'm pretty sure it's Chinese. Chinese, and the concept is pretty much around compounding small efforts done on a regular basis. There's probably a better way to describe it, but I like it because it relates to bodybuilding. Every small 1% effort might not seem like much at once, but if you compound all these on an everyday basis, that's where the best progress comes from. Not one big effort, but small, consistent efforts of every small, fine detail done compounding for over a long time. It's like building muscle. You do one bicep curl, not much happens. You do 3 sets of 12 bicep curls every week for 2 years, your biceps are going to grow. So watching grass grow. Little bits add up.
And that's where that self-confidence comes from, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing what you say you're going to do, sticking to it consistently over and over. How important is motivation in all this?
Motivation, I think, sets your direction. I think you be motivated to achieve something, but don't rely on it ever again. Take the motivation, like you watch a cool motivational video of someone winning the Mr. Olympia. Be like, all right, I'm motivated to become that. And then figure out motivation, make a plan and be disciplined to the plan and rely on your discipline over the motivation.
Yeah. I think that motivation really doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Motivation can be what gets you going, but discipline's going to be what keeps you going. Motivation is the kick up the butt, but the discipline is where you actually get the results, you get the self-confidence. I've never known anybody who is confident in themselves who relies on motivation. The most self-confident people are the most disciplined people as well.
Yeah.
Motivation as well, I think, is so fleeting because of everything that goes on in our lives. You might feel super motivated to get something done when things are good, but when things are going bad, the motivation's not going to be there. Do you feel motivated all the time?
No. I was going to say, last Friday, we had a big day. I felt stress, uptight, unmotivated, and I came to the gym and hit legs. And I felt legs are one of the days where you sometimes can benefit from some extra motivation, but I didn't enjoy it. If I was doing a leg day where I felt motivated, I finished the workout, I'd be like, yep, cool, good workout. Whereas that day I was not feeling motivated at all. I had the discipline to smash the workout anyway, and the way I felt after was so much more just alive, because I was like, I achieved something that was hard. I wasn't motivated for it. And yeah, but long story short, no, relying on motivation is not sustainable for long-term progress. And when you rely on discipline, it makes your work so much more rewarding.
So what advice would you give to somebody who wants to change for the better, who wants to show up for themselves, and wants to be disciplined, but doesn't know where to start?
I always say, write it down. Write down what you want to achieve. So for me, I want to be Mr. Olympia. And the next step is make a plan. How do I achieve this? So I need to diet this way, or train this way. I need to have these sort of systems in place. And I think having stuff written down in front of you makes it so much easier to like break down. Having a plan, I think though, is your best way to set your intentions in front of you, and then you know what needs to be done, if that makes sense.
How do people start building discipline?
Just getting started. Just getting started regardless of how you feel, really. You'll probably doubt it, but after you just have a few attempts of pushing through discomfort or lack of motivation, you realize you don't need it. And that just compounds and snowballs.
Just do the thing.
Just do it.
Just do the thing, Don't wait for the motivation. Don't wait for the perfect time. Just go out and do it.
Don't think about it.
Yeah. But also just doing it consistently and not expecting it to be perfect, because it's not going to be perfect. There's definitely runs of perfection. You can get a really good few weeks, but inevitably something's going to happen. Life's going to throw a curveball at you, and things aren't going to be perfect. But as long as you stay consistent, that's when the discipline builds up.
Yeah. It's proving it to yourself.
Prove to yourself with those daily wins that you are who you say you are, And if you don't believe in yourself and you don't have that self-confidence,
You put it up and over try.
yeah, but build that self-confidence through that consistency.
Yeah.
Through the hard work.
Yeah.
We obviously had some hardship at the start of the year that's kind of bled into the last few months. One thing that we both have done, but you especially have done really well, is responding to that setback and to that adversity with a confident mindset and seeing it as seeing it as an opportunity to grow and to learn rather than just a setback. Do you think that you a few years ago would have had a completely different experience?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you have hectic stuff happen, like we sort of experience, you can either sort of just be like, feel sorry for yourself, huddle down, just sort of camp out in bed all day and feel sorry for yourself, or you can be like, all right, this is something we can jump over and better ourselves from. So I think just running with the discipline of knowing that continuing to keep moving and keep doing the daily things despite the setbacks, again, just proves to yourself that you're going to make progress. And I think the more the time goes on and you get over these hurdles, you realize that hurdle is actually a positive because it's forcing you to pivot in more dynamic ways, better yourself. And I can look back now, the last, 4 or 5 months being a tougher period, I'm 100% in a better spot than I was beforehand, purely because I was able to pivot and take that as a lesson to level up on top of, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting the dynamic of when things happen to you in the moment, they feel so different than when you look back. And we only have the pleasure of looking back in hindsight and being like, oh yeah, that was actually worth it. That was something that I needed to go through. But in those times, it can feel like the worst thing ever. And sometimes you can't see the way out. And you just have to believe that this is part of the bigger picture and this is serving me in some way. What are some things that you do in those moments? What are some things that you did in those moments that reminded you of the bigger picture?
I think, again, not over analyzing. You over analyze, you're sort of like, this is not perfect. It's not worth it. Don't over analyze. Just get to work and just keep on moving in whatever direction you're forced to go, as long as that direction is forward, not stagnant or backwards. Just keep on keeping on. Don't overthink. Like, luckily with our circumstances, with things that happened, we're still able to get to the gym, we're still able to train, we're still able to do what we need to do. So first step is build up momentum with the things you can control. Then the things you need to sort of adjust them. But as long as there's like forward momentum, just keep momentum forward. So don't let your overthinking cause you to become, stopped in your tracks.
Having that forward center of mass, as Andrew Huberman likes to say, of just consistently moving forward. And it doesn't matter how slow you're moving forward, as long as you are still attempting to take one step and put one foot in front of the other. It's important as well to let yourself slow down and give yourself the grace and not beat yourself up if you do have to take a step back, as long as you know that it is for the right cause and to spring you forward.
Yeah, legit. Sometimes a step back is going to take a step back just temporarily. As long as you keep moving forward, that leap forward is going to be further than you would have if you were going on the same trajectory.
Yeah, it's like the... Okay.
Eye twitch.
It's like the arrow analogy where you're pulling back the arrow to shoot it forward. Sometimes when life is giving you these setbacks and giving you these challenges, it's pulling that arrow back so that it can shoot you forward. And having that awareness that this moment in time is just my arrow being loaded before I get to be shot forward is a really, really good perception to have.
That's awesome. I never heard that. But it's true.
It is, life gives us these challenges and tests right when we need them, and it's forcing us to level up. And as long as you are willing to level up, you are going to.
Yeah.
As long as you're actually willing to close one door and open another, you're going to have in that new door so much far greater things than were in the old door. But if you're still clinging to that door and you're putting your foot in it, trying not to let that door shut, you're only going to be stuck in that door for a long, long time. You're never going to be able to even see what's in that new door.
Yeah. Yeah. Just keep on moving. Don't cling on to the past.
Yeah. I think it's been a hard time for me in the pro debut prep. It obviously, because of everything that we went through, my prep got paused, it got pushed back. And for a while, I was so adamant that that was the time, this was my moment. And closing that door was really hard, but without that door being closed, everything else that's happened since wouldn't have even been able to happen.
Legit. Legit. Well, since then, you've made a podcast and that has just pivoted in a different direction. And all these new exciting things wouldn't have happened if we gave you like the hardship. So it's always for the best.
Yeah. How do you navigate the negative self-talk when there is the voices in the head saying what you said before, you're dumb, you're awful if you don't get things done or if things aren't going perfect?
I'd say simply just what needs to get done, make sure you get it done. And there is no say negative self-talk, or at least it's minimized. A lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time the negative self-talk is there for a reason because you feel like you haven't done enough or you're not living up to what you expect for yourself. So back to discipline, just be disciplined, do what you need to do. And then generally that negative self-talk is minimized, I find.
What about circling back to that first question that we spoke about, having the balance of discipline and creativity and having some downtime and having rest and not saving the comfort for when you're old? How do you deal with the negative self-talk when you do have to take a rest day? Or
I think making your intentions clear again. So whether you have a coach that guides you or when you're coaching yourself, have a plan in place to say, hey, this is logically what needs to be done for my goals. Anything past this is not necessary and can be counterintuitive. Anything less, slack. If you stick to your intentions, I think if your intentions are right and they're not overdoing things and they're sort of allowing that bit of balance, like I've sort of recently realized, I think that is number one. I always like to have a clear plan of attack written down so I know what is the sweet spot, what is too much, what is not enough. And as long as I'm sticking to what needs to be done in that perfect blend, I think that's, again, just going to minimize the guilt that you might feel from not doing enough or not doing what you expect of yourself.
it's quite common for people to feel guilty that they aren't doing enough, and sometimes that can actually have a negative effect on their performance. Do you think that that's happened to you?
Yeah. That's why from at least for myself, having a coach is very important because I can have all the knowledge in the world. There was a period where I did coach myself for a short time. And even though logically I was like, you don't need to be doing this much work, emotionally I was like, nah, more equals better. Having a coach to sort of rein you back and pull you in line, I think is necessary. I've got a coach obviously for bodybuilding, which allows me those principles and intentions and plans to be mapped out so I can just not think emotionally and just logically do. I have a coach for business, which again avoids the doubt of not doing enough because I have the intentions there. I know if I'm doing what's told and what's instructed and what's beneficial, I'm good. But I think I have a lot of respect for people who prep themselves and coach themselves because it's so hard to draw the line between what's logically and factually productive and what is just your emotions getting carried away, being like, more. So yeah, having someone to guide you, especially for me, pulls me into a state where I don't have to overthink. I can just be like, all right, this is what needs to be done. I'll do it.
It takes a really specific kind of person to be able to use that shame and channel that into something good. I think majority of the people out there, especially people who aren't as disciplined and who are still just trying to build that discipline up, that shame and that guilt can really fester and can create quite a negative spiral.
And so same with everything. It's like just find that balance. You can use your guilt to drive more compliance, more work, more action. But if you let it overtake everything, it's just like what we said before. It's just going to force you into just a really uptight, overly stressed state that's not productive either. So
Do you think day to day in your actions, when it comes to the gym, when it comes to work, your discipline, do you think that your natural state is in a state of positivity or almost a state of lack and trying to prove?
now, positivity, past chasing the future too much. Like focusing on the outcome, less presence, more restriction, more uptight, more stress. Whereas focus on now, let your goals direct you, but focus on now, be here, enjoy it, and that just naturally leads to positivity. Even if like you might perceive your circumstances to be negative, if you're not resisting it and you're just sort of being present in that moment and just being here, you're gonna not really feel negative anyway. The resistance is what always makes you feel like negative. It's like
Yeah.
whatever you're going through, it could be like the worst thing that you could perceive could ever happen to you. But if you're not trying to escape it and avoid it and fight it off, but you're sort of letting it be and being present with it, you're not really going to feel too negative, which is easier said than done, but it's true.
Well, I think that your perception is your reality. So these external things that are happening to you, if you're perceiving them as negative, you're going to have a negative experience. And if you're perceiving them as something that's going to teach me a lesson or is going to make me a better, more knowledgeable, more worldly person, you're going to see that as a positive experience. And I think that our perceptions are always a reflection of how we feel inside. So if you are in a constant state of lack of trying to prove yourself, trying to prove your worth, and you don't have that self-confidence and self-assuredness, even the best of situations you're going to have perceived as negative. And a lot of that does come down to building up your self-confidence and being more present in your life.
Yeah. I think I've luckily built up like a natural habit of being, I think, pretty glass half full. Whatever happens, I feel there's always a positive and a negative. So I always just have like a tendency always just to always focus on the positive, whether it be something you can learn from this situation or this is causing this positive effect. Forget out the negative stuff. I like to always focus on the happy stuff.
Yeah, that positivity bias is something that maybe we're not all geared towards. I think every brain has that negativity bias because that's how our ancestors were. They were looking for things that were going to kill them rather than the things that were going to make them feel happy. But the positivity bias is absolutely something that you can train and that you can build up through repetition, through practice.
Yeah.
What is something that somebody can do that's, if they want to build up their positivity bias, what can they do right now, today, that is going to help that?
I think just make an intention, no matter what happens, be like, what's the positive of this outcome? Like say if, I don't know, yeah, it's a rainy day and you were looking forward to getting some sunshine. Just think about what positive you come from this. And there's always something. If you're open to looking for it, there's always a positive for anything as bad as it might seem. So I think just make that intention to take every thought before you act or become emotional or say anything. Just be like, what's the positive? And then that's your new direction. Focus on that and you get more of that.
Do you practice gratitude?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's sort of a way that steers you towards practicing gratitude. But I do. I think I have a habit of when I go to bed every night, I always try and think of a few things in mind. There's a point where I was writing it down. No, I had a gratitude rock. You know the gratitude rock? I had a rock and it was just a thing that pretty much reminded me to list 3 things I'm grateful for before going to bed. It was just there as a reminder, like, oh, that's my rock. I'm going to grab it and think of 3 things that I'm grateful for from this day. Now I just naturally think of it before I go to bed. I'm like, what's something I'm grateful for? It just sort of sets me into a more positive state, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Like anything, you can build a habit by just doing it over and over and over again. And you can build the habit of being grateful by just repeating, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that thank you. Thank you for this. When hardships come up, when it's raining, you can just train your brain to say thank you. And
And say it out loud. Saying out loud, I think, just like clears the jumble of the mind and allows you like, I'm grateful for this really aesthetic podcast studio. When you say it, it's more clear in your mind because it's just there, but it also can like be contagious to other people. I think just sharing gratitude for things around you makes other people be grateful for it as well. And then sharing gratitude verbally of a trait of a person you're with makes them feel good about themselves, and they're going to be grateful for everything. Just, yeah, I think put it out there, it just bleeds into everyone else, and just people catch the gratitude.
yeah. Do you think it's important to share your gratitude with others and tell people that you love them and that you're grateful for them?
Yep. I think sometimes that leads to people believing in themselves more. Like sharing gratitude for, or even complimenting someone, is a way of gratitude. Like you can say, like, oh, you've got a really nice outfit on today. Like it's in a way sharing gratitude that people will be grateful that you're seen, and then that just everyone just catches it. I think every opportunity you can take to compliment someone or share gratitude for someone else of something of their traits, the more that just spreads into them and hopefully just spreads everywhere.
That makes me think of the quotes, don't try to be happy, try to be kind. I think to create a positive self image and to build your self confidence, kindness and giving and having that positive bias and that gratitude towards life and sharing that with others in turn makes you feel so good about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's coming. If we bring that back to bodybuilding here, you can like have the goal of being a great bodybuilder to win medals, win accolades, and win praise. Or you can, for myself, I've learnt not so much being focused on winning the medals. Recently, now focusing on using my love of bodybuilding to create a platform to either inspire other people or help other people achieve their goals, or just to share some sort of joy to someone else. Having something that makes you stand out a little bit, whether it be bodybuilding or whatever you do, if we can use that to help other people, that feels so much better than just winning a medal and being like, yeah, cool, I'm jacked.
Yeah. One of the greatest gifts in life is being able to help others and make others believe in themselves a little bit more, whether or not it's through a compliment or through some help or inspiration. Being able to do that at a large scale is so, so awesome. And it's so much more valuable than having a large audience because you've got a large audience, like being able to say, I've got 100,000 followers is cool, but being able to say, I can touch 100,000 people's lives and I can inspire 100,000 people, and 100,000 people can potentially be better off. That's what's awesome.
I've said this one to you before, like if someone in the gym sees you and says, you're looking big, it makes you feel good. But imagine if someone you look up to, like Chris Bumstead, says the exact same thing. You'd be like, oh, you made my day, made my week. That's like what I want to do. Not that I'm at that level yet. Yes. I want to get to that level where such small things can impact people so greatly. And therefore, big acts of kindness or big acts of serving will help people even more. It's like the more people you have access to, the more influence you have on people, the more you're able to just inspire and help it just create so much more joy for everyone around you. That's like, I think that should be your main motivation for what you're doing, not just ego or clout.
Yeah. And you're going to be so much more successful because of that, because you are enjoying the journey, because you're getting rewarded in the littlest things, and you're going to feel really, really good about yourself. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day what happens, what medals you win. If you are journey focused and focused on giving and helping and making other people's lives better, that's an absolute win. And nothing external will be able to change the way you feel about yourself, because you're going to feel so good inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's that's rounded this whole conversation off absolutely perfectly. And I think, Cal, you're so much more inquisitive and so much more self-aware now than ever before, definitely before I met you. And I think that that's just to your, you've worked so hard for that and you have really put an effort in to be that person. So I just want to commend you for that, because it's been awesome to see, because of course we can always improve, but I've really got to witness that journey and see you step into this next level human. And I think you're going to go so far in your bodybuilding journey, but just in life. And I think you're doing good things.
It's nice, nice little sentence. I hope you save that. I want to play that on repeat on my phone just so they can feel nice at the start of the day. But can I say a quick thing? I think if I can give like one piece of advice or like one breakdown of everything I've learned over this last little period of my life and what we've talked on today, is take a look back or overview what you're doing and why you're doing it. If you're doing it to make yourself feel good and make yourself feel above others, switch your head space around that. Because since I've done that, I've realized that if your main motivation for doing something is realizing that anything anyone ever does in the world at the deepest level is to experience joy, love, happiness, peace, that's what's going to drive you. So do what you're doing with the pure intention of being joyous, being loving, and share that with everyone. And if that's your main motivation and driving factor, rather than just fueling the ego, everything you do is going to be so much more fueling, rewarding, and the outcome doesn't even matter. It's just your direction to make the world better. And that's what I've learned. I hope that makes sense.
Epic. Callum, thank you for coming on the Mindset Lounge. You will absolutely be back. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Love ya.